Welcome out to the range, a gloomy day, middle of January 2025. Happy New Year. Today we're going to talk about survival guns. What we, the world out there, carry as survival guns. What is a survival gun? What a survival gun in a rifle might be, a shotgun might be, handgun might be. We're going to define that as far as what I found on the internet. Nothing I say today you should take as a recommendation other than to go learn for yourself. I'm going to give you some examples. We're going to generate some conversation. We're going to talk about what different capabilities of all these different types of firearms may be. We're going to show Paul's video up here so you can get to that. Look at his, he did 3 years ago on his top 5 handguns for wilderness survival. We're going to shoot some soda jugs today, shoot some paper targets, compare the accuracy, some of them from an average shooter's point of view, and see if that's really worthy of us taking and using out in the wilderness. When I say that, I'm talking about the woods, etc. Some people live in Alaska, that's real wilderness, or above the Arctic Circle. Anyway, so keep in mind your needs where you are, and let's start with the long guns. A wilderness survival gun is according to Google or the definition I found, when it comes to a handgun, it's supposed to be a lighter weight, smaller caliber handgun, not a 10 millimeter with a 6-inch barrel. That's at least what some people think. And when we get to handguns, we're going to show you a lot of different examples that might fit that bill and a lot that won't. When it comes to rifles or long guns overall, it is sometimes a combination gun. I want to say Savage built years ago. I think it was Savage. Anyway, it was an over and under, usually a rifle barrel on top, followed by a shotgun barrel, and it went everywhere from 22 long rifle and 20 gauge to 30-30 and 3-inch 12 gauge. And a lot of us thought they were cool back in the days. And Paul took one rabbit hunting one time and hated it because the hammer, that is what defined which barrel went off, was never on the right one when the jackrabbit jumped up. Take that for what it's worth. But that's what they say. Lighter weight guns, usually smaller calibers. Think of the Henry, I can't remember the model, but the review we did on the Henry version of the AR-7 screw-on barrel, 9-shot magazine, 22 long rifle. That is a survival gun. Smith & Wesson made a 500 Smith & Wesson with a 2-inch barrel, maybe 2.5-inch barrel, in a bright orange kit. Came with a compass and some other survival-y type stuff that was designed basically to put into your aircraft or your boat because it floated in case you were out in the true forever wilderness and something happened. The Air Force has had survival guns for their pilots for various aircraft for a long, long time. And a lot of those were smaller, wire-stocked, very basic firearms. So that's what we're starting with. Most of us take firearms to the woods with us, and we don't call it a survival gun. We call it, that's the gun we're going hunting with today, or plinking with, or I'm carrying for predator control / protection, whether that's 2- or 4-legged predators. And depend upon where you are and what you're doing, how far from the rest of the world you are, is going to dictate the type of firearm you take with you. In Paul's video, he talks about a story of it was perfectly legal to open carry a firearm. And the person he was with didn't like that, and so he found himself thinking he needed to have a firearm you could conceal. In a lot of trail areas, whether that's wilderness areas, very popular in Oregon in the Columbia River Gorge, that a lot of folks from the city go out there for day hikes, and it is out in the wilderness, and they go back 5, 6, 8, 9 miles sometimes, but they don't take a lot of stuff with them. That's a different story, different time. But somebody walking down the road or the trail carrying this probably would cause alarm to a lot of people. And I'm not saying it's right alarm, wrong alarm. The person's perfectly legal to do so. Somebody walking down just with this would cause alarm to some people. So when we get to handguns, we're going to show you some options that might better fit that scenario. But let's start with our rifles for now. We have here my 700 BDL Remington 30-06 bolt action, big game gun. Now, it does a great job on big game. It does an okay job on small game. If you shot a rabbit with a 180 grain bullet, probably not a lot left to eat. Let's see if we can demonstrate that here in a little while on some soda jugs. On the other end, we have an AR platform, 5.56, hollow sun on top. Most of us know what 5.56 can do and will do, you know. Moving up, if you still like the modern look, folding stock, adjustable, 3-power magnifier, different hollow sun, comes with a 30-round magazine, 10 millimeter. It is heavy. I wouldn't want to pack that around too much. Moving all the way down, back down in history also, is the Nylon 66 22 long rifle, semi-auto, Remington brand, with a 2 to 7 little scope on it. 2 to 7. It's a Cabela's brand, 2 to 7 by 32, made for 22s. Next, I have an example that almost anybody nowadays that owns a 22 owns one of these. This is just it's not an original, whatever. It is a wood-stocked Ruger 1022, 10-round rotary magazine. You can get all kinds of magazines for them. It's got a little Tasco 4x32 scope on it just because I have old man eyes nowadays and it works better for me. It is just your typical 22. In Paul's video, he's got a takedown model because it can go in a backpack. All of these you can take various size game with. Yes, people will tell you that almost everything on North American continent has been taken with a 22 long rifle. I wouldn't want to chest shot a bear and see if it worked. I wouldn't want to head shoot a bear, see if it worked. But we're talking about survival. And a lot of times when we're talking about survival, we'll get to that a little bit later also, is that people think we're going to go shoot small game, squirrels, birds, rabbits, whatever other small game. The 22 long rifle is great for that kind of stuff. Not so much if you think you're going to have to defend yourself against bigger, larger game. And that all depends if you're Alaska on Kodiak Island, there's more bear than human on it. 5.56 does a pretty good job for both of those things. 10 millimeter coming out of a rifle does a really good job. We know 30-06 does a great job. Problem is, you can't shoot a grouse with a 30-06 and have anything left to eat. So they each have their place, and what you're doing at the time will dictate what rifle you have. When I go do my 3-day trip, which is kind of what this is leading into, I plan on right this minute taking my have had forever Nylon 66 with a moderate caliber handgun behind it. Probably something with a larger magazine count, i.e. 15 or so. I'm thinking this is going to be it, but I'm not quite sure. I'm not sold on chest holsters yet. Now, moving over to the shotgun side. If you were to take a long gun and you thought it was just for survival, I would say there's probably nothing better than a 20 gauge or a 12 gauge shotgun. We have some examples of different ammo we'll get out here in a little while. This is a 3-inch 20 gauge Model 88 Mossberg Maverick made by Mossberg. It's got adjustable stock length. You can take this off, shorten the stock if you need to. It's a very lightweight gun. Doesn't have a ton of recoil. Of course, it takes the standard size 12 gauge also, or 20 gauge, sorry. Also has a 2-round capacity with 1, so a total of 3. And it's a little harder to find, but you can find buckshot, slugs, super lightweight birdshot, almost all the same type of loadings for a 20 gauge that you can for a 12 gauge. That being said, you've seen this one before. If it was true, wow, can't speak, getting cold. If it was truly survival, I really like my tactical setup. 870, 20-inch barrel, rifle sights. I have sighted in and can, on a good day, make headshots with slugs at 50 yards. Tac light, 1,000 lumen. 6 rounds on the sling, 6 rounds on the butt, 4 mag, so 4 plus 1 in the gun. Don't even have to dig in pockets. You could have buckshot, you could have slugs, you could have birdshot. I'm not going to go into how great 12 gauge for the variety of loads out there you can get would be for a true like survival long gun, if that's what you thought you needed. Probably isn't anything on the North American continent that you can't kill with a 12 gauge slug if need be, let alone buckshot and the rest of it. So if you were taking and going on a trip, but they're heavy. The last one is my very old fashioned, just side by side, double. Used to have 30-inch barrels. We fixed that. Standard 12 gauge. It's fun to take out, jackrabbit hunt, things like that. It would do very, very well if I got lost jackrabbit hunting or stuck out somewhere or who knows what that became a survival situation. What is a survival situation and what do we really expect to be surviving? That's a question you need to ask yourself when you're choosing which one you're going with. Most people nowadays that get into survival situations are spending the night. And I can't quote Paul, and please go watch his video for his definitions of survival. But basically it comes down to adverse conditions in the wilderness, not campgrounds, etc. When you're not planning to spend the night, and not prepared to. And when he talked about prepared, he means the difference between emergency bivy bag, mylar, space blankets, fire starting stuff, and a full-blown pad, tent, sleeping bag, pillow, regular stove to spend the night with, where you would go camping. That's camping, not surviving. I would argue that if you're carrying all that, you're prepared for an emergency. You're prepared for spending the night outside when you really didn't plan to. So I would change it just a little bit to not planning to, but prepared to, if that makes sense to you. Paul described adverse conditions as rain, snow, the weather's an issue. I'm telling you right now, if you were standing out here for very long, like I am, my hands are getting cold. I've got a long sleeve shirt underneath this, gaiters on, see, gaiters on, insulated boots, wool socks. It would be a long, miserable night if I just went with what I have on and couldn't get a fire started. But I could probably survive it. If it started raining on me, that would be a different story. It'd be about 35 degrees and raining, and without the proper shelter, you're going to be in a true emergency survival situation. Why do we have the guns with us? Well, that's a question you have to answer. My thoughts and the people I've been talking to basically said, maybe as a backup to your long gun, whatever that may be, and for two-legged and four-legged creatures. And you feel better, most of us do, when we have more rounds with us in that kind of situation. So Would your 30-06 with 5 rounds kill most animals, both 2- and 4-legged, on the North American continent? Yeah, it would. Do you feel better because you have 30 rounds at 10 millimeter? Or in this case, 15 with the magazine in it? Yeah, you do. But usually, most places won't let you hunt with that many rounds in a semi-auto rifle. Is that why you want to take maybe a 12 gauge and not a 22? Or when you go out there with your 22, you take a 44 Magnum or a 357 or really good hard cast, super fast rounds out of a 10 millimeter? Probably so. We have our handguns laid out there. I'm not trying to show off. I just brought a large sampling of handguns that people carry nowadays. On this side of the table, we have our pocket carry, conceal, obviously, super small, everything from a 357 Magnum down to a 22 Magnum, 22 long rifle. Okay. The next category are predominantly 9 millimeters. I think there's a 380 in there. This happens to be a 22, very lightweight, 10-round magazines. So if you want to go, and you could put a light on it, single action. So don't fry me because you see some Glocks on the table. We got a sampling of everything, almost everything of common nature. Then over here, we have belt carry, open carry. I have concealed, well, I've never carried this one out in public, but the rest I have concealed, believe it or not. And then some larger frame revolvers to include if all you have is a 41 Magnum or a Ruger Blackhawk. We have our Colt Single Action Army as an example for. Like I said, we're not going to shoot them all today. No need for that. So let's talk about why you would want the various calibers and categories. Tripped over myself. And yes, it's gotten cold enough. I had to go break out my coffee. Start over here. We have the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard in 380. I want to say it comes with a 6-round magazine. It has a laser on it. They're nice guns. They got real sights on them. And if you are deep concealing something, it's hot summertime, etc., you want to slip something like this in your shorts, it's better than nothing, right? Another magazine, you're pretty good. You're okay for your 2-legged predators. In Oregon, probably most black bears, cougars, other things that might want to try to get you are not going to hang around when you put enough rounds into them. But any of these guns you've got to practice with and be pretty good with. We have, as in Paul's video, the Ruger LCP2 and 22 long rifle. If I could take a gun this size, unless I didn't want to deal with recoil and stuff, I might as well go with a 380 or maybe a 38 special. But if all you have is this, or you really like 22, or you think you're going to need it to, I don't know, shoot little rats and things, 22. The Beretta 21A 25 Auto. I have 3 more magazines for it. They are 8-shot magazines. It's a step above your 22 long rifle. They make good modern self-protection ammo for it. Again, if you're up there in your swim trunks or your shorts or you're a long ways in and you're really just taking something so you have something better than nothing, very good guns. All of these good guns. North American Arms 5-shot mini revolver 22 Magnum. Believe it or not, from 10 yards, I can shoot a pretty decent group with it. But it is a single action, very slow to reload. Not my first choice. Then we have the 638. Let me double check. Yes, 638 Airweight 38 Special Plus P Smith & Wesson. Carried this for a long time as my backup gun, pocket gun. That's why it's got the wood grips on it. This is just like the gun that Paul shoots in his video. Really good guns, but it's 38 Special. But it is lightweight. You can get speed loaders, reload them pretty quick. You can drive it into your intended target without fear of it going out of battery. I recently have moved up to and back to a all stainless steel. So this one is airweight, lightweight frame. This one is all stainless steel to hold the two quite a bit heavier. 357, 5-shot Smith & Wesson 649. Let me double check for you. It is, yes, 649. This happens to be a -5. I carry this currently as my backup gun for the same reason. You can shove it into your target, pull the trigger. It's very hard to defeat. And the hammer on it, it does have a shrouded hammer. And so if you want to single action it from 25 yards or so, and 357 out of these size guns does give you more than 38 special. We're going to do a video on that in the future on, because I can shoot both 38 and 357 out of this, obviously. See exactly what the difference between those two are. Moving out of the super small guns. Move over to the medium-sized guns. Now, you could argue that these two guns are pretty much the same size. This one's a little bit lighter weight. It's your Ruger LCR 9x19 5-shot moon clips, or those star to hold the rounds. Obviously hammerless, so it's all double action, but it's lighter weight, and if you really trust and believe in the 9mm, or that's what you have, good little gun. Again, smaller guns for most people are harder to hit with, especially when you're talking about double action trigger pulls, long, heavy trigger pulls. It takes a lot of practice to get there where you can hit with them. But if you have those and you really rely on those and you trust those, they're excellent guns. Here is my version of Paul's P365. So this is a Springfield Hellcat RDP with the shield red dot, compensator, not a glow all the time, front sight that's round, U-shaped rear sight. The factory magazine comes with 11 rounds, and you can get up to 13 round magazines. I have two more 13 rounders. 9x19, if I didn't say that. Striker fired with a manual safety. So if you wanted to carry it in your backpack or whatever, I still carry it always with a holster that protects the trigger just because of that. I really like this gun. It works for me. It's my go-to off-duty carry gun. But I do carry it on a belt holster. The next one on our table is the Ruger LC9, 9x19 again, thin profile. Looks like at one point it had glow-in-the-dark, well, or Trijicon type sights. Again, it's striker fire, very slim, but 9x19. 8-round magazine or 7-round magazine. So obviously less because they made a huge jump since this gun was made into same size guns with with larger capacity magazines. So those are the go-to guns nowadays. Over here, moving up the scale a little bit, we do have a Glock in OD green, 9x19 also, 6-round magazine. I do have the bigger magazines. This is the Glock 43. Don't ever carry Glocks in your pockets or anywhere else without something protecting the trigger, because they will go off. Next one on our list, another 9x19, Glock 48, a few more rounds in the magazine. Smith & Wesson, M&P 9C. It's another 9x19. This one's a lot heavier than your Glocks. Still striker fire. Could put a light on the front, unlike those two Glocks. So, again, just samples of what you may have out there. And probably the lightest, 1911, single action, ambidextrous safeties, 3 10-round magazines with it. It's a Browning 1911 22. Paul loved this little gun. Again, you could put a light on it if you wanted to. It's super lightweight, so if you want a 22, 10 rounds, and you like this size, this is a really, really great gun for the 22. So that I probably would take over by 9x19 for the same size just because it's lighter weight. Again, depending on what I think I'm going to run into and what I'm carrying for a long gun, if I have a long gun. Moving on up the scale here. 22 long rifle, model 17, Patridge front sight, 6-inch barrel, 6 rounds. This is a new gun of an older style. It is, heavy for a 6-round 22, but it is smooth as silk, and it's a beautiful gun. And you could shoot this once you practice at 50 yards, single action, and it's a Smith & Wesson like Smith & Wessons are supposed to be. This is its stainless steel, 4-inch barrel, 10-shot. Same model though, so you don't want to flag myself. 10-shot, and they make speed loaders for them too. 22 long rifle. So for the same weight, actually this one is a little bit heavier. Why they have an underlug, I don't know, but it's cool looking. Stainless steel, 10-shot, 22 long rifle. Good sights on it. If you want to go with 22s and you like revolvers. Another one that Paul recommended is a full size. I've upgraded it since Paul's video, you'll notice. I have the X300UB Ultra 300 on it from Surefire. It's 1,000 lumen light. It's getting dark enough out here, we actually need a light. A Trijicon RMR on it, red dot. It has safety, 9x19, 20-round magazine. When you're going to go full size, very nice gun, striker fire, very good trigger on it. But it's 9x19. I left my 40 at home today. 38 special, if this is all you have, excellent gun. Smith & Wesson Model 15, 4-inch barrel. Shoots the plus Ps all day long. Super smooth. This is an old police gun. This gun's, I don't know, it's got to be from the 70s somewhere. Anyway, in fact, it's so old, it's a 38 special with a pinned barrel. If you're into semi-autos, bigger caliber, 45 auto, ambidextrous safeties, Colt railgun with an X300A on it, so like 800 lumen. You could carry this open carry, concealed carry. It does come with 8-round magazines, but it's 45 auto, maybe not enough gun for what you're out there for. Then we did the review on this. This is the FK Burno PSD-C in its 7.5 FK round, 15-round magazine. If you want to, it comes with a drop-in barrel, weighted, compensated for less recoil, super fast. Watch our review on it. So it's a little bit heavier, but it does carry the 15 rounds, and it's a super great cartridge, and it goes through everything with that solid copper round, and the hollow points do a great job too. So if you end up with one of these and you want to spend the money, that might be the handgun to take with you. We're going to see today if we can hit some soda jugs with it here in a little bit and see if the solid copper ones do as much damage as you would expect. I'm kind of hoping they don't. Then moving to the back of the line, we have a Smith & Wesson 44 mag, 6-inch barrel, target sights on it, stainless steel 629, which is a lot of gun, but if you're taking just that gun, but again, it's what you think you might get into. If you're thinking multiple adversaries like a pack of wolves that are 4-legged and a pack of wolves that are 2-legged, you may want more than 6 rounds. The caliber will do just fine, but you may need more rounds. One of my, just because, love it guns, 357, 6 rounds, 357 Smith & Wesson Model 27 with a 3.5-inch barrel. Again, same problem, great round, not enough capacity, depending upon what you think you're getting into and where you're going. And then as our sample for a single action, whether it's a Ruger Blackhawk or any other quality single action, here you go. Okay, so again, same problem. And if it's a modern single action, you can carry 6 rounds in it, but they're slow to reload. Most of the time, you're probably not going to need more than 6 rounds, even if you're shooting at an attacking bear or something. So think of that. But again, if two-legged predators and wolves are your problem, you may want more rounds. So we're going to put some of these to the test. And when I've talked to a lot of friends lately about what they carry, they're basically carrying almost their EDC handgun. They're carrying something like this, or a Glock 19, or something like my Springfield Hellcat, or something like their J-frame. So they're carrying, most of the time, most people out there today are carrying a 9mm concealable carry, mid-sized firearm as their backup to their rifle, especially if they're out hunting. If they are, well, most of the time that's what they're carrying, is a 9mm that has a larger capacity magazine if they can get it, so that they can take just one more magazine. Normally that gives them 30 to 32, 34 rounds, depending upon the brand of the firearm, obviously. And it's plenty what they think is going to be for what they need. They're taking day trips, they can conceal them easy, they can carry them open if they want to. And here's the trick. They're firearms that they use a lot and are very comfortable with and know they can hit with. And that's what it comes down to when you're carrying that survival gun. And if the only thing you ever see is that one lone deer or that rabbit or squirrel or whatever, and you haven't seen anything else in 3 days, you really don't want to miss. So maybe your Smith & Wesson M&P 9C that you can, shoot the wings off an gnat at 100 yards with, I'm exaggerating obviously, but something you can hit with all the time is better than your 44 mag that you're a little afraid to shoot with and you miss more often than you hit. Those are all things that you need to decide. You need to know about your equipment, your abilities. Survival is about the proper equipment, the proper abilities, and that point gets driven home when you have firearms. All that same philosophy applies to all of these, no matter what size they are here. It's cool looking to have a 6-inch 44 mag. It's cool looking to have a full-size red dot 9x19 20-round magazine firearm. But if you can't hit with them, it doesn't matter. If this is the gun you carry every day, or this gun you carry every day and you know that how it works, you're not going to panic when that moment comes, and you're very confident in your ability with it, that's the gun you need to have with you. Because ultimately, that's what you need when it comes down to surviving, is something you can hit with that will be enough gun to get the job done. With all that said, let's go over here to the range, see if we can hit some paper, rabbits, and squirrels, and some soda jugs for you. We're running out of daylight. Seems like a common thing that happens in the wintertime for us. We're going to start with the 1911 22 and 22 long rifle. It's the single action 1911 style. We're going to start with the squirrel with the big red dot on your right. Okay, we'll look at all the targets together, and we're shooting from about 10 yards. So the next is the Smith & Wesson Model 27 on the rabbit target in 357, so 1 over. So the second target from the right. Right. The next one is the Springfield Hellcat in 9mm. The next jackrabbit, well, he's not a jackrabbit, but the next bunny rabbit over there. Well, that rabbit looks like he's safe tonight. One more. All right. And the last one is the Gerson 10mm on the squirrel. All right. Maybe you can see him, maybe you can't. Here's our 22 squirrel target with the 20, the Browning 22, 1911 22 or 2011. It's a decent growth group. I'm going to have to fix why I constantly shoot to the right. I would have hit it. These two are frustrating. There's one that I wouldn't count. So here's with the 357. Too much front sight, obviously. I did get 3 good hits out of the 6. But when you're trying to survive, maybe, when you shoot and miss the first one, there may not be a second one. All right, over here. Couple good hits. The group's not bad, but it's way low. And this would have done okay, would have got my rabbit. But, and then the 10mm, there's some decent rounds right there. Those are all good hits. So that's acceptable. Now we're going to go back about 10 yards again and see if we can't get us some soda jugs. All right. The Gerson 10mm, we're going to shoot the 2-liter up on top, we hope. Well, I guess that's why you don't want to shoot small animals with a 10mm hollow point. One more 2-liter just for the fun of it. Well, that's impressive, but it sure wouldn't be much left to eat. Now, the long guns, we're going to start off with a 12 gauge. We're shooting number 6 shot, 1 1/8 ounce out of your standard everyday 2 3/4 inch 12 gauge. The 870 Remington. And we're going to start with the squirrel on the far right. And now the rabbit. Let's see if we can get one of the small soda jugs. Maybe 12 gauge is a little too big. One more small soda jug right there in the middle. Okay, now the 20 gauge Maverick with standard everyday 2 3/4 inch number 6 shot. I'm going to start with the squirrel on the far left. And the rabbit. Well, that's quite a bit of spread. See if we can get the big 2-liter. Maybe 20 gauge is a little too big. So this 20 gauge is only set up for 3, so that's what we got. Let's go up and look at what happened. Okay, Paul uses a standard of 6 pellets on a critter to get hits. This 12 gauge I'm using is cylinder bore, which means it has no choke. There's, I didn't count them, but way more than 6 in these and a decent spread. So obviously a very good shoot most anything firearm. Same thing happened here. Okay. That's a slug hole. Sorry, it's not a slug hole. It's the wad shot cup. Move over here. 20 gauge, more tight. Excuse me. Sorry about that, folks. Tighter pattern because it is a improved, it's a modified choke on that one. And it still have 6, plenty of impact. Same thing with the parts of the shot cup. Killed the critter just perfect. The small one, it's not destroyed like the big one is. And then we didn't know at the time that this was off camera. But here's what the 20 gauge did to the 2-liter. That's a lot of devastation, folks. So maybe you want to be a little bit farther away. That being said, let's wrap this up for tonight. So the wind's coming up, the dark's coming in, and the temperature's coming down. Let's get this thing wrapped up for you. So obviously I need to go out and do more practice with my own handguns of various sizes and types. And you can see that even at the same distance, some of the smaller guns are harder to hit with. It's more important to get good hits than it is to have big holes and big misses. The shotguns did just what I thought they would do. They're very effective, very devastating. It's why they've been around for centuries. With that, I hope you've learned a little bit. I hope this has given you some information about what you have, what you carry, why you carry it. And it's shown a little bit of all the options, made you think, why do I carry, and what is an emergency or a survival gun for me? And if it's surviving an attack by 2-legged predators out in the woods, or it's surviving a bear or wolf or whatever you think is going to come after you, it doesn't matter, it's all the same. Go out, practice with, like I need to, train with, analyze your equipment and your tactics so you can be the best prepared to survive any situation.